The goal of today's video is to get a better understanding of the different types of admissions, or in other words, the different processes we can go through when we are applying to college. So let's get started. The first one we're going to talk about today is a process called early decision. So for each one of the processes we talk about today, we're going to go over the definition and then we're going to talk about some pros and cons. So early decision means that you are submitting your application early. So if all applications are typically due in December, you're submitting your application earlier, probably in around November, maybe even October. And early decision is a binding agreement with one school, which means that you're submitting your application, and if admitted to that school, it means you are committed to attending. So it kind of makes the decision for you. There's a contract that's required in this among you, your parent or guardian, and your college advisor, with an understanding that you are willing to go to that school and you've committed to going to that school if you're admitted. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of making this binding decision. Some of the pros are it's a great way to show interest in a school. So what better way to tell a school that you are so excited to go there than telling them, if you admit me, I am coming. So it's a great way to show interest, which can give your application an advantage over other applications. The other nice thing is that the decision's made for you. So if you get in, you're done. That's the school you're going to. It also means that you likely love this school because you made this commitment to doing a binding agreement with it. So it was likely your top choice, as it should be, because it's a school that you're making this big commitment to. The cons of this are that there is some financial risk involved in early decision. You should be doing a lot of research before making this decision to decide if this is a good financial option for you and your family. You should be using the net price calculator to get an estimated financial aid package. You should be looking to see what the average financial aid package is for a student, and you should also look at the percent of financial aid need that they meet at their school. Those are big indicators on whether or not this is a good financial risk for you and your family. Another con is that you can't weigh the school against other options, and that's because you have to withdraw all of your other applications. So if you do get admitted into your early decision school, that means that you have to withdraw all of your other applications from other campuses, because it could mean that you're taking a seat away from a student who applied. So those are the pros and cons. Something else to keep in mind with this process is it's something that you should be having a conversation about from the start of your college process with your college advisor. So if you're thinking you want to go early decision, this is something that gets talked about really early in the year. Early in the year, meaning the start of school year in September, when you get assigned your college advisor. You should really know a lot about this school. So it should be a school that you have maybe done a virtual tour of, you made a connection with admissions. Academically, you're likely a target for this school, and it's really the place that you see yourself going. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a long time. I would hope so, because you're making a binding agreement if you decide to do early decision. If early decision feels a little overwhelming for you, you don't love the idea of the binding agreement, there's always early action. So early action is kind of the same as early decision, except you can do it at multiple schools instead of one. So there's no binding piece. It just means that you apply early to multiple schools, and then the pros are you get your answers earlier. There might be some financial aid benefit to this, because sometimes students who apply early action get considered for different scholarships, and there's more financial aid available if you apply earlier. You still have all the way until May 1st to decide if you're going to go to this school or not. And you might be compared against a smaller pool of applicants than the regular decision pool, because there's usually a smaller percentage of students that are getting their applications done early action. So similar timeline to early decision, early action applications are usually due around October or November. The cons are, if you're a student that's looking to apply to EOP at SUNY, more often than not, you can't do early action and EOP. So if you're thinking about being considered for an EOP program at most of the SUNYs, you won't be able to go through the early action process. The other con is that you can still be deferred to the regular admissions process, even if you apply early action. So it's possible that they'll review your application, be on the fence, and decide to look at you against the regular decision pool. So there isn't always a guaranteed answer with this, but more often than not, you are getting your answers earlier when you go through the early action process. We strongly advocate for early action if you feel like you can get all your application materials ready in time, because it means getting your answers earlier, a little bit more excitement earlier on, and having more time to weigh your decision. However, some people don't feel like they can get their applications ready in time for the early decision or early action deadlines, and that's where there's regular decision. So for regular decision, you're applying by December, and you can do this for all of your schools. You can also decide to do some schools early action and some schools regular decision. It's up to you. The pros of regular decision, it is the most common application process. So if you don't get things done early, it's okay. You're in the greater percentage of people where you're doing regular decision applications. This also means that you have more time to finalize your applications. So if you are feeling really overwhelmed with work in the first part of senior year, it gives you all the way until December to get all the application materials together. It also means that your senior year grades will be considered with your application at the end of first semester. So if you're doing early action, it means that they won't see your senior year grades until after you're admitted. If you're doing regular decision and you're having really strong senior year performance, this might be a good reason why you should wait, because then they'll get your first semester senior year transcript in addition to your other high school transcript. The cons are that you do have a shorter time to make the decision on which college you want to attend. So most students are hearing back from their regular decision applications in March or April, and they have to decide typically by May 1st. You're also being compared to a larger applicant pool. So like I said before, with early action, there's usually a smaller pool of applicants, whereas with regular decision, you're getting compared to a lot more people, which can sometimes make things slightly more competitive. And the other con is that at some schools, there might be more financial aid, mostly institutional scholarships earlier on in the process. So it's possible you could be forfeiting some of those opportunities if you apply regular decision, but that's not always the case. The last one is rolling admission. So rolling admission means that you apply and then you get your answer within 6 to 8 weeks. Not all schools offer rolling admission. Most offer early decision, early action, and regular decision. So this is a little bit more of a unique one, but still something we should talk about. So the pro to this, kind of similar to regular decision, is that you get more time to work on your applications. Because again, most of these schools are reviewing on a rolling basis. So sometimes their deadlines aren't until way later in the year, maybe even March. But that doesn't mean we're going to apply in March. The other nice thing about this is that you get to hear your answers sooner than the other processes, because you're putting in an application, then you're hearing 6 to 8 weeks later, versus sometimes maybe not hearing for a month or two. Maybe even 3 months. The cons to this are that it is easy to procrastinate completing a rolling admission app, because you know that you can just get it in and you'll get your answer in 6 to 8 weeks. And those later deadlines I mentioned before. But another con is if you do end up falling into that trap of procrastinating, then by the time your application is in, the class might be full, because the way this process works is they continue to review admissions applications until they filled their class. So those are the 4 different types of admissions you can go through. I'm just going to go back through them one more time so we understand. We have rolling admission, regular decision, early action, and early decision, the binding one. So those are our different admissions types. I hope this gives more clarity. And remember that if you're thinking about doing applications early, get all of your application materials ready to go, and make sure you have a conversation with your college advisor really early on in your process.